Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a supernatural horror film, The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. Multiple homicides occur in Grantham, leaving behind a bloody crime scene. No strangers' fingerprints or signs of forced entry are found on the premises. The condition of corpses suggests that they were trying to escape the house, but failed. But the weirdest thing found is the pristine body of a woman partially buried in the basement. In fact, the identity and cause of death are clear for all the victims, except for the woman. What is more troubling is that there is no apparent reason for her to have been at the crime scene. The sheriff decides to name her Jane Doe for the time being. On the other hand, Tommy Tilden and his son Austin Tilden run a morgue, which has been a staple in Grantham for years. There are 2 lifts in their basement. One is of a step-ladder style, with the door only opening outwards. Tildens are so professional that they can find out the cause of death for anybody. However, Austin knows how hard it is to find a girlfriend while working as a coroner. So he does not want to continue. Luckily, his girlfriend is not afraid of the morgue at all, and offers to see the dissected corpses. Meanwhile, girlfriend wonders why a bell is tied to each corpse. Tommy explains it is a coroner's professional habit to ensure they were dead. Austin is ready to go on a date with girlfriend after work. Right at the moment, the sheriff drops the dead woman's body at Tilden morgue. Noting the urgency of this task, Austin does not want to have his father working overtime alone, so he blows off the date and asks her to come back a few hours later. Sheriff wants them to find out who she is and how she died before the night is out. After sending the sheriff off, Austin turns on the video recorder and starts autopsy with Tommy. At this time, the radio forecasts that the next few days will be sunny, but no one pays attention to it. The first step in an autopsy is a visual assessment. Jane was about 20 to 30 years old, with a thin waist, fair skin, and no obvious trauma. But what happens next is incomprehensible to the Tildens. Her eyes have clouded, which indicates she had died for days, but the corpse has not been fossilized, meaning her death is quite recent. As the Tildens examine the body, they quickly notice both her wrists and ankles have been broken, but no bruising or any visible sign of injury appear on her skin. In her fingernail is detected some northern soil, but they are in the south. Austin takes photos of those characteristics, while Tommy sketches out the position of her injuries on the blackboard. At the same time, a fly crawls out of her nose, and her nose sheds some blood. Later, they discover that her tongue has been cut out, and one of her teeth missing. A thin thread is hidden in her mouth, and there has been obvious damage to the genitals. All the anomalies point to a complex cause of death. The time now is already 9:45 in the evening. Austin knows his date is ruined. The Tildens move on to the second part of the autopsy, internal testing. Annoyed by the radio noises, Austin switches it to a music channel, so the dissection begins in light music. However, rare phenomena continue to occur. First of all, the blood of the corpse flows freely like that of a living man, and then all the specimens in the refrigerator have gone bad. As they cut into her, things get stranger. The lungs have been severely burned, as if the body was set on fire. Other internal organs have stab wounds from various sharp objects. It's medically irrational to have her internal organs harmed, while her skin remains intact. If she is murdered, they don't know how or why the murderer killed her in such a complicated way. When they are deep in doubt, they are awakened by some noises from the hallway. Austin goes out and spots a man in the retroreflector, but when he walks to it, he finds no one. In the lab, Tommy accidentally cuts his wrist on a bone. Following the weird sound, Austin locates his cat in the ventilation duct. The cat, Tommy's pet, is covered in bruises and appears to be dying soon. In order to relieve the cat's pain, Tommy has to snap its neck, before reluctantly cremating it. Back to the morgue, more unexplainable ghostly things await them. The freezers in which the bodies are kept automatically open. Then a northern flower, the Jimson weed, is found in her intestines. The flower and the soil in her fingernail imply that the corpse comes from the north. Right at this moment, the radio announces a storm is building up. Austin feels insecure and suggests they pause it and resume tomorrow. But Tommy thinks otherwise. After that, a piece of cloth with an odd diagram is found in her stomach. Unwrapping the cloth, they see her missing tooth. This shows that her missing tooth is knocked out by force and swallowed. Putting all the astonishing events together, Austin supposes the corpse to be a sacrificial offering of a certain cult. Now the radio says the storm has caused flooding. Austin again requests to leave, but Tommy disagrees. Continuing the autopsy, they find some odd diagrams underneath her skin. The closed door of the morgue suddenly swings open. All the light bulbs on the premises burst like lightning. Tommy finally decides to go, so the Tildens get up to run away. Fortunately, the generator is still working, and power is soon restored. But the basement exit is blocked by some branches, and they cannot open it. Worse still, their phone reception is cut off. During this time, footsteps and roars echo in the hallway. In panic, the Tildens return to the office and call the sheriff. But to their surprise, the telephone also fails. Shortly after that, they hear someone walking outside. Through the crack in the door, Austin sees a pair of feet with bells on them, the bells which belong only to the dead bodies. Obviously, Jane is the root of all problems. The hopeless Tildens shut the doors tight and think hard of how to escape. However, there are no other alternatives for them. Soon Tommy is attacked by an unseen figure with clouded eyes in the bathroom. Recognizing this is a fight against death, Tommy decides to destroy Jane before they get cleared. The Tildens return to the morgue after the footsteps are cleared. As soon as they step in, the door is shut automatically. Austin takes an axe and cuts a crack through the door. From the crack, they see corpses stored in the fridges rise from death. Without further ado, they set a fire on the dissecting table, but the fire spreads everywhere out of control. The video camera and photos are burnt right away. The Tildens immediately apply the fire extinguisher to put off the fire. But Jane is not burnt at all. The Tildens quickly flee to the lift, with the hordes of dead bodies chasing behind them. However, the lift door is stuck after they get in. In despair, Tommy swings his axe at the lift, but he accidentally kills Austin's girlfriend. Though Austin's grief is beyond words, he literally has no time to mourn for her death. He returns to the lift with Tommy, and the lift works perfectly. But after a short while, the lift is stuck again. It looks impossible for them to survive tonight. Tommy apologizes, for it is his insistence on working overtime that leads to the disaster. But Austin is pondering why the corpse does not kill them. Since the autopsy begins, mysteries accumulate to prevent them from further dissection. He wonders if Jane has some secrets that could only be unraveled by autopsy. Perhaps if they can find out how she died, they may be able to prevent this disaster. So the Tildens return to the dissecting table. All of a sudden, a mass of smoke rises from the cremator. While passing through the thick smoke, Tommy falls down to the floor. Austin saves him in time, and the two of them finally land on their feet. To their shock, her brain tissue is alive. Austin realizes folding the cloth in half will lead him to a Bible verse, Leviticus 20:27. Based on the verse and the Arabic numerals of 1693 on the cloth, they speculate that the woman was probably a witch, sacrificed in Northern Europe in the Middle Ages. This is consistent with the slender waist of the female corpse, for waist girl was popular at that time. Back then, the witches of medieval Europe were mostly well-married women, who had been falsely accused. Tommy is sure that since Jane merely tortures them, because she wants them to experience the same pain she had suffered over 300 years ago. While saying so, Tommy discovers symbols beneath his own skin. He goes on to guess that Jane's body was discovered before. But since the survivors could not destroy it, they had to bury her. Meanwhile, the resurrected bodies begin to bang against the door. Austin runs to stop them. But Tommy begs Jane to let him bear the pain for her, in exchange for his son's safety. Soon after that, Jane's joints are healed surprisingly, but Tommy's joints are broken. Her eyes return to normal, while Tommy's eyes have turned gray. Looking at Tommy in severe pain, Austin decides to give his father a quick death. Tommy's sacrifice seems to work. Austin then hears someone calling their names. He runs to the exit, but the exit cannot be opened. Out of nowhere, Austin sees Tommy's figure behind him and drops dead in terror. When the police arrive, they find both Tommy and Austin dead. However, his dead girlfriend is nowhere to be found. At this time, the radio broadcasts that today is the fourth sunny day in the week. In the morgue, nothing changes, except the camera and photos are burnt. Jane lies as it is, without traces of dissection. Tommy and Austin die exactly the same way as that of the homicide victims. Sheriff orders to send Jane to a local university for further studies, but in the van, the car radio suddenly blares, and it plays the same song that has been played last night. The film ends with Jane wriggling her big toe. So it is clear that Jane was sacrificed as a witch 300 years ago. She possessed the power for unknown reasons, and began her revenge by killing people through hallucination. Homicide victims and the Tildens all die of hallucination. Many clues are hidden in the film. For example, the weather forecast says today is the fourth sunny day of the week. But on the night of the autopsy, it mentions a storm is building up. Moreover, besides the body of Jane Doe, the police only carry out 2 dead bodies from the crime scene. Austin's girlfriend is not found, proving that girlfriend doesn't visit there. Another clue is Tommy and Austin's bodies are free from bloodstains. But last night, Austin has girlfriend's blood on his hands and face. In addition, Tommy's joints are broken, and his eyes turn gray after he offers to be a sacrifice. But in reality, all Tommy has is the dagger Austin stabs him with. The clock in the morgue also plays a part in the mystery. At 9 the corpses reach the morgue. At 9:45, they begin the autopsy. At 10:04, they are halfway through the autopsy. But after the cat dies, the time on the clock travels back to 9:45. Before the autopsy, the radio already says a storm is coming, but the storm is fake. So their hallucinations begin right before the autopsy. The cat's death serves as the twist, for the cat is often regarded as the witch's assistant. Probably the cat wants to sacrifice itself for the witch, to resurrect its witch master. But Tommy breaks its neck, and as such, discontinues its sacrifice. So misfortune befalls on them, and they are brought back to 9:45, when they begin the autopsy, and the new round of sacrifice as well. Tommy suffers the pains of the sacrifice, after begging her to spare his son. But in the end, his son just gives him a quick death by mistake, before he could complete the painful sacrifice ritual, so as to resurrect the witch, causing the father to fail in sacrificing himself in the end. As a result, his son cannot escape death, and he's forced to death under the influence of hallucination. As long as Jane does not resurrect, she will continue to murder lives in the same manner, which is indicated by the final scene, where Jane wriggling her big toe. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Peace out.